Yeah. All right. So today's topic is actually about, and I would just call it to go live right now. Just simply because it's on a couple times about sharing this message. But first thing, let's see you like what you're going to do. YouTube channel. Let's get to it. All right, so a lot of times we get into a space where we be catching a little hell and we be looking for solutions to a problem. And a lot of times that may be your training ground. That may not necessarily be um, towards your calling. So, case in point, when I was in the industry and I was building my brand up and building my name, and that's because to be honest with you, I lacked a lot of confidence. I had a lot of self doubt in myself, and because of that, being the oldest of 10 kids and held to be responsible or be a leader for the family, I was trying to level up or measure up to something that I didn't even know that I was even qualified to do, but yet I was going through it. Now, because of that, that put me in a space where that I still wanted to have time for me, and having time for me, it caused me to isolate myself because my natural ability was, um, books, math, and science, right? So it being in art. So, because of that creative space, I'm focused on what interests me. I'm focused on what interests me and However, because I developed a knack for it, eventually I was able to make it out. At the time, a lot of people that was in my environment at the time didn't realize that you could make a living as being a graphic designer, a media person, a person that created content, that created marketing materials. A lot of people think that was just some made up shit, but that was only because corporations at the time, and clearly we're in 2023, and that's a real thing, right? So, but in this time, there was no understood industry, right? So because of that, I became obsessed with I wanted to make it happen, and I started making it happen, but it was on a small level. But during that process, I was actually in training mode, right? Because now I'm starting to learn how to create works of art, or ways of communication visually that allowed me to now attract interest and become an effective visual artist for people that was out here marketing, right? So that was like a great situation. But boom, I wanted a little bit more, right? So since I wanted a little more, when I found my niche in the nightclub entertainment industry, in exotic entertainment and a nightclub industry, I was like, ooh, I could go full out, right? So when I went full out, of course, now I'm making money, making a living off of the very thing that I was training for in the person that called me into the space, because that's what I feel comfortable with. But since I wanted a little more, I ended up becoming a manager, right? That was just the next level, all right? So now I had notoriety. What actually, let me skip. I actually became a marketer. So I stepped out of designing and started marketing and creating interest as a public figure, as a promoter. So now I'm learning how to attract people as a whole from my notoriety from being a graphic designer. So at that point, there were people that was trying to keep me in just that space, but yet I wasn't trying to stay in that space anymore. I was evolving, right? So when you start evolving, you started getting a different level of training, right? It's like when you go to your job, it's different from when you're working at the base level and when you get promoted to a supervisor. It's a different paradigm. It's a different thought process. Now you're going from one to one to many. So you feel what I'm saying? So you're getting a different perspective of how you're doing, because now your calling is now becoming your training ground, and your training ground is now going to put you in direction to your calling, right? So as you start going through your life and you start realize like, well, what am I called to do? What am I called to do? Look around you to see like what have you been through. Key thing, look around you and see what you've been through. And at that point, you might be saying like, oh, there's a training ground. Well, what kind of industry am I in that can use the skill sets from what I've been through? Like a lot of people go into becoming info marketers or becoming authors, right? Because now you've taken all your trials and tribulations and successfully found ways to handle it as real way. So now you want to document that stuff. Let's say you was a, a, a chemist. Now you develop a way that can allow people to now find an easy way to make soap or something. It really don't matter. But what matters is that a lot of times when you're in that training ground, it's giving a condition to your actual calling. It's like when you was in the military, you know, you can't go out and say, I'm about to be an ultimate killer. You can't go around saying that I'm Rambo. No, you had to get specialized training so that you can be able to be efficient at your calling, to be able to execute at the highest level, at a proficient level. Now, what does that mean? That means that now you got to surround yourself around people that have successfully done it, that's doing it at the level that you want to do it. It get the proper training and the clarity. So, like, for me, I was walking and I met someone, and I met them doing their purgatory period. Because, right now they was married, just got divorced, got 4 kids, and they're trying to realign with themselves. Because why? They've been so focused on someone else that they did not know how to align with themselves. And that's one thing that um, I think everybody going vicious go through. A lot of us be going through. A lot of us get so caught up in somebody else or something else or some idea that for the greater of somebody else's idea, that they kind of forget who they are as a person. And if that goes out of alignment from you growing with that person or growing with that company, then it's time for you to part ways. That does not mean that you just have love lost, but it just means that you have to evolve. You have to grow to your next level, because at that point you're going to your next calling. A lot of us get to a point in life where that we no longer um, are are shit. It's man, it's amazing how you realize how much the wisdom of like the Bible comes to mind when you actually read it or understood it, and it started becoming applicable to your life as you get there to that level of maturity and that level of awareness. Like the I don't know the scripture. I just know what it is, which is when I was a child, I spake as a child, but when I became a adult or a man or a woman, I put away childish things. It's like, at what point do you let that drinking and smoking go every day? We're not saying don't do it. We're just saying, when do you tone it down and become more level-headed? Like, what are you battling? What are you holding on to that has you focused on problems and uh, and things that's keeping you away from your next level? Like, is the kids are grown now? Why are you still angry at the man that left you when you were 5 years old, or the child's father or the mother or the child or the mother that abandoned you and left you have to raise them kids by yourself? Like, when do you learn to let that go and found out that you were built for that, because you went through that training period to now have the calling, so now you can be an effective communicator, letting people know, like, hey, this is how you manage a house of four and you're by yourself. These are the things you might have to do, and become a mentor to someone else, or a consultant to someone that's done, or a counselor, or just a friend to someone else that can actually teach them how to leverage their purgatory period as a point of your breakthrough period. You feel me? It's like, I don't know everything. I just know what I know. Like, I know marketing. You feel me? I know things about, finding solutions and problems, and look for the little nuance that can be things great. But I don't know nothing about, how to manage 4 kids at a time as a single parent. I got one. So I can manage one and leverage with one, but I don't have the experience to leverage with 4. But there's some people out here, because I know there's a lot of men and women who are able to manage 4 at a time. So when you get into the alignment and look at your environment and say, like, hey, look, I did that. I did that with 4 kids, 5 kids. I did that with my sister's kids, because she was too strung out and she couldn't take it, but I took on that responsibility and I made it happen. And now all them kids are grown, they're adult, they're doing well, and they're being great. And I did it, and this is how I did it. then you share that information. You sell the resources. Like, hey, look, you might want to go and seek out XYZ resources from the federal government, or you might want to check out these nonprofit organizations that do all of those different things. You feel what I'm saying? It's like a lot of times your calling is right in front of you, and you've already been trained for it, or you're being trained for it, and you're just not walking into your calling. You feel what I'm saying? You're not sitting here stepping into your greatness because you're sitting here holding on to some shit that has nothing to do with it when you just been trained for it. It's like the mentor always told me. He says, "Hey, they'll tell you in a minute." And he says like, "Oh, I was a truck driver, and for 40 years he was." And the mentor tell you, it's like, "No, you're not a truck driver for 40 years. No, you learned how to be a truck driver in 2 weeks, and you just been doing the job for 40 years." You feel what I'm saying? It's like you've been a great friend for 20 years, but you really only been babysitting for 20 years. You haven't been being a friend. You were just there. You feel what I'm saying? But when you actually start being a friend and being active and sowing into their life, and they're sowing it to you, now it's an activity. It requires action. So it's the thing of recognizing that, hey, look, I take an assessment of your environment, right, and see what you've already done and done successfully. That's the key point, doing it successfully. Like, hey, this is what I've done successfully. Now, who are struggling with this thing that I've mastered, but other people are struggling with? And then that becomes a clarification or an opportunity for you to step into your calling and start doing it and start serving the people that you're called to serve. You ain't gonna serve everybody, understand it, but you will be able to serve some people that's gonna utilize your help. And sometimes you can do that for a fee, and you can do it for a fee. It's up to you on that thing. It's based off of what it makes sense in your heart and what makes sense in your calling and how in that download. And with that being said, hey, look, I hope this adds some clarity to your to your uh to your calling, going through your training, knowing that when you take assessment of your environment and see the things that you have successfully done collectively without fear of failure, without a second thought, and able to add to the next person without a conviction or obligation that they owe you something, but as a community place for them to share something that they may be able to benefit from, which in exchange will offer the law or principle of reciprocity, the principle of karmatic energy. What goes out will come back to you, positive or negative. So if you put bullshit out, you're gonna get bullshit back. You put positive out, you're gonna get positive back. That is the law. Those are the principles. Those are laws that are ordained by God, and that's how it works. So I hope this helps you some. I pray that this reach the ears that it's called to hear. If you listen to the end, make sure you tap in and hit that like and subscribe. You feel me? Hit that like and subscribe. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Just hit that like and subscribe, and make sure if you are looking for support and help in your marketing game of getting a robust marketing system, go ahead and go to what's that? What I got here? You go to 1%value.com, get the book, download the book, and I go ahead and teach you the live class as an added bonus. You feel me? So with that being said, stay healthy. Let us be wealthy. Don P out.